Sign here, Mrs. Hughes, before your kind ruins our family. Those 11 words sliced through the hushed mahogany boardroom. But the elegant widow only smiles. Because in 60 days, every soul in this racist country club will discover the fortune she controls and beg for her forgiveness. Cassandra Hughes had always believed contracts revealed more about character than any love letter. At 62, she'd signed dozens in her lifetime: real estate deeds, art gallery partnerships, endowment grants that quietly kept libraries open in towns that forgot her name the moment she left. But never had she seen a document radiate such naked contempt as the sheaf of papers sliding toward her across the glossy table this Thursday morning. The firm of Crawley Brant sat high above Charleston's historic district. A perch chosen, she suspected, so its clientele could look down on the city the way they look down on most people. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed steeples, lyco canopies, and the slow shimmer of the Ashley River. None of that beauty entered the conference room. Inside, the decor was leather, mahogany, and ice. A discreet oil diffuser puffed out bergamot, wealth's official scent. Cassandra kept her posture straight, shoulders back, hands folded on a modest black handbag that had belonged to her late mother. She wore a dove gray skirt suit, small pearl earrings, and soft pumps sensible for arthritic knees. Anyone glancing in would see a polite, aging widow summoned to mind the manners her Alabama upbringing had drilled into her. No one would guess the simple brooch at her collar was Bocheron, or that an invisible earpiece in her right ear linked her to a personal legal team listening from a townhouse 3 blocks away. Across from her sprawled the Montgomery Lane, 3 generations deep into Carolina cotton money and every bit as pale as the porcelain tops their ancestors once shipped from England. Eleanor Montgomery, family matriarch, presided at the table's head, platinum hair in a French twist, sapphire suit as rigid as her spine. To Eleanor's left sat Preston Montgomery Asu, Cassandra's grandson's fiancée, Charlotte, clinging to his arm. Charlotte looked terrified, though whether of her grandmother or of losing access to Preston's trust fund, Cassandra could not tell. Charlotte's father, Harold Vale, flanked Eleanor's right, fidgeting with a Mont-Blanc pen. And then there was Preston himself, tall, caramel-skinned, dreadlocks pulled into a neat knot, cheeks trembling with suppressed fury. He was Cassandra's heart, the boy she'd raised after her daughter died. A Howard-educated software architect now running his own startup, Preston believed he was here to finalize wedding paperwork. Instead, he watched his grandmother prepare to be humiliated for his sake. Eleanor tapped the stack of papers. Mrs. Hughes, this is a standard prenuptial agreement. Merely a formality to protect family assets. Surely you understand. Her drawl coated every syllable like cold honey. Cassandra smiled gently. Of course, protecting what we hold dear is every family's duty. What Eleanor held dear, Cassandra thought, was not money. It was charity, the quiet assurance that some people belonged at the head of the table and others were expected to serve coffee. The firm's junior associate, a young man whose name tag read Cooper, pushed the contract closer. If we could have your signature on pages 4, 9, and 17, ma'am. Preston half rose. Gran, you don't have to sign anything today. Charlotte and I. Eleanor's manicured hand halted him. Preston, sit. Your grandmother knows this is a civilized procedure. Charlotte brings her lineage, you bring your entrepreneurial spirit. We simply require assurances that distant relatives can't lay claim should, heaven forbid, something go awry. Lineage, Cassandra mused. Not love, not partnership, lineage. She opened the folder, scanning. The language was a minefield. Should Preston die, Charlotte kept all shared property. But if Charlotte passed first, Preston received only the depreciated value of her automobile. In case of divorce, Preston forfeited any claim to family estates, art, or equity in Montgomery Holdings, yet must pay Charlotte a reanimation stipend of $15.00 per month for life. Ridiculous but not surprising. Page 9 caught her breath. The use relative, defined herein as Cassandra may use Dub 9/14/1959, shall not, under any circumstances, occupy permanent residence within Montgomery properties nor exert advisory influence on financial matters pertaining to Montgomery Holdings or subsidiaries. In other words, keep the old black woman quiet and far away. Cassandra's hand didn't tremble. Instead, she unapped her fountain pen, an inexpensive cross-bought at Staples, and initialed the margin. She made her way to the signature line, paused, and lifted her gaze. Mrs. Montgomery, she said softly, I have 2 clarifying questions. Eleanor leaned back, Victoria's smile flickering. Certainly. One, am I correct that signing this relinquishes any future right I have to offer business counsel to my grandson? Correct. Preston will be fully integrated into our advisor's guidance. 2, should unforeseen hardship befall Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery, say, a downturn, care they free to request support from me? Cassandra asked. The room chuckled. Even Charlotte's timid giggle escaped. Harold wiped his glasses. Eleanor replied, Mrs. Hughes, that eventuality is inconceivable. Then we are clear, Cassandra said, and bent to sign. The pen glided, leaving ink as blue as an indigo field at dusk. She closed the folder, slid it back. Cooper scooped it up, relief flashing across his face. We'll have notarized copies sent to all parties within 72 hours. Wonderful, Eleanor declared. She patted Preston's hand as though concluding a board meeting. Now, Charlotte's shower is at 2. Mrs. Hughes, you're welcome to attend. Though we understand if such gatherings are, she searched for a polite insult, tiring. On the contrary, Cassandra replied, I adore a good party. She rose, arthritis shot pain through her hip, but her chin stayed high. She offered Eleanor a smile warm enough to toast bread. Congratulations on your expanding family, Mrs. Montgomery. May it bring you joys you don't yet imagine. Cassandra turned, nodding to her grandson. Preston stared, confused rage tinting his eyes. She gave the slightest wink, a signal they'd used since he was 5 and fearful of thunder. Trust the storm, it passes. Outside the conference room, the receptionist stretched a fake cheerful grin. Cassandra signed the visitor log. As she pressed the pen down, she felt the vibration of her phone. A text from her chief of staff, Lillian. All set, Madam Chairwoman. Transfer executed. Yell. Cassandra smoothed her skirt and walked to the elevator. Behind her, the conference room door clicked open. Charlotte hurried out. Mrs. Hughes, she whispered, I'm so sorry about all that language. I didn't know Nana put that clause about you. Cassandra studied the young woman, almond eyes, jittery hands clutching a designer clutch. Perhaps Charlotte was another pawn, or perhaps she'd known and stayed silent. Time would reveal. No need for apologies, dear. Weddings make families nervous. Cassandra tapped the elevator call button. But remember this, what's written in ink can be rewritten in spirit. Charlotte's forehead furrowed, lost. The elevator arrived. Cassandra entered, doors closing on Charlotte's puzzled face. As the car descended, she allowed herself a single sigh, not of sadness, of preparation. Tonight, she would dine with trustees of the Hose Walker Foundation and adjust philanthropic allocations. Tomorrow, she would host her weekly book club livestream for 30 retirees who thought she lived on Social Security alone. And in 60 days, at an engagement gala glittering with crystal and condescension, she would reveal who actually signed the paychecks that kept Montgomery Holdings upright. But the first move was complete. She had taken their insult, pocketed it like a chess piece, and left the board smiling. Preston caught up with her outside the building, spring sunshine glaring off polished tars. Gran, why'd you sign that garbage? They practically called you a freeloader. Cassandra took his arm, guiding him toward the parking garage. Child, every cage builds a key alongside it. You just have to know metal from shadow. I don't want Charlotte thinking. Charlotte thinks what Eleanor tells her to think, Cassandra interrupted gently. The question is, what do you think? Preston rubbed his temples. I think I hate them right now. But I love Charlotte. And love without backbone becomes burden, Cassandra said. You must decide whether you'll stand tall enough for the woman you choose. They reached her car, a 10-year-old Ford Fusion, dented bumper, radio permanently tuned to gospel. Cassandra unlocked it. Preston frowned. He knew she kept a newer sedan at home. Gran, let me drive you. My Tesla's. I'm perfectly able, baby. She hugged him, the top of her white curls touching his chin. Into his ear she whispered, watch and learn. Storm, show us where the leaks are. He stepped back, worry softening into reluctant trust. She started the car, rolled down the window. Tell your fiancé I'll see her at the shower. Bring roses, yellow ones. Why yellow? Because forgiveness wears sunshine. She winked and drove off, leaving him staring after the rattling bumper sticker. Readers make leaders. Back in the boardroom, Eleanor signed duplicate pages, sealing the agreement like a victorious treaty. Harold Vale refilled her teacup. Cooper scurried to collect pens. Such a relief, Harold murmured. We dodged a potential embarrassment. Eleanor's laugh had no humor. Embarrassment? Harold, that woman's presence alone lowers the Montgomery brand. I'll ensure she's seated with the caterers at the reception. Cooper dared a question. Ma'am, should we verify Mrs. Hughes's financials? Our background check turned up little. She lives in a midtown bungalow and shops at discount grocers. Eleanor dismissed. Old colored women don't hide fortunes, Mr. Cooper, they hide grandchildren. Across Charleston, a private server directed a file, line by line. The Huz Walker Foundation transferred $100 million into a blind trust labeled Azure Acquisitions, an entity poised, within weeks, to purchase the debt instruments propping up Montgomery Holdings' real estate expansions. The person who clicked confirm was Cassandra's assistant, sipping sweet tea. Contracts, Cassandra thought, always show the writer's soul. Eleanor had just signed away hers. That evening, Cassandra sat on her veranda overlooking a narrow garden fragrant with night-blooming jasmine. Lillian arrived with envelopes, charts, and fresh catfish po' boys from the corner shop. Sign off on the letter enter remodel? Lillian asked. Yes, increase the budget by 20%. They need accessible restrooms. And the Moosey program grant double it. Lillian adjusted her glasses. After today's transfer, available liquid reserves are $944 million. Comfortable plenty. Cassandra bit into her sandwich. I want a silent purchase option on the Bellevue Racket Club by next month. Use the Azure entity. Title can stay ambiguous until I say otherwise. That's the Montgomery family's headquarters for their charitable galas, Lillian noted. Exactly, I intend to visit often. A pause, then Lillian ventured, may I ask why you endured that prenup farce without objection? I could have sent counsel. Cassandra gazed at the moon-silvered lawn. Because, child, sometimes you let a fool dig their hole deep enough to plant a tree later. When a storm uproots them, that tree will give shade to people they never saw standing in the sun. She lifted her sweet tea glass, toast whispered to the night air to storms, and to the gardens they water. The jasmine nodded in the breeze, carrying her vow through Charleston's sleeping streets. The ambush had begun, not against her, but against every rusted chain that thought it still bound her destiny. Velvet drapes the color of aged merlet framed every window in the ladies' parlor at Azure Palms Country Club. Muffling gossip the way cathedral walls mute confession, chandeliers shimmered overhead, catching light from late afternoon sun, but nothing shone brighter than the curiosity in 52 pairs of eyes when Cassandra Hughes stepped across the threshold. A hush rippled through the polished room, quilted silk chairs suited, pearls rattled against tops, and manicured fingers tightened around stemware as if bracing for earthquake tremors. At Azure Palms, tremors came in the form of information, small, seismic shifts that rearranged social continents before dessert was served. It was Saturday, Charlotte Montgomery's bridal shower. Roses, every bloom yellow, just as Cassandra had quartered, cover-flowed crystal vases. Lemon macarons, mango scones, and financiers glistened on silver tiers. The decor looked cheerful. The atmosphere felt anything but. Someone had been whispering. Cassandra tasted it in the air, sharp like citrus peel, sweet like sugar covering bitterness. Eleanor Montgomery, flanked by her closest allies, ladies who still insisted on being called matrons, greeted guests near the French doors that opened onto manicured croquet lawns. She wore dove blue chiffon, but her smile was fitted steel. When she saw Cassandra, the smile stretched thinner. Mrs. Hughes, Eleanor purred, voice carrying across the room. How lovely you could join us. Cassandra inclined her head. Thank you for the invitation. She handed over a small box wrapped in yellow silk. A keepsake for Charlotte. Several women leaned closer, curious. Eleanor accepted the gift but tucked it behind a champagne bucket without comment, as though afraid an unvetted present might explode. Cassandra surveyed the parlor. Plush rugs, Persian originals she noted, and a fireplace of travertine stone. Everywhere sat women between 50 and 80, their hair silvered or lacquered solid, their attention swinging like parlor fans toward the new arrival. Among them Cassandra spotted Iris Whittam, Harleston's real estate queen. Pauline Muller, descendant of a shipping dynasty, and Dorothea Prance, heir of the Chistory Preservation Board. All tethered to Eleanor by favors owed, secrets shared, and, of course, money. Yet hidden among social royalty were Charlotte's college friends in pastel dresses and modern wedges. Their laughter quick, their nerves quicker. They glanced at Cassandra with uncertainty. Was she family or staff? Ally or interloper? Across the room Charlotte stood at a dessert table arranging petits fours into neat rows. Silk-sleeved arms shook so slightly Cassandra's heart pinched. The girl reminded her of an ivory figurine poised on a shelf, admired but rarely understood. Cassandra approached. Need a hand, child? Charlotte startled, nearly dropping a pastry tong. Mrs. Hughes, I'm so glad you came. Nana wasn't sure you'd feel comfortable. Comfort grows where we planned it, Cassandra answered. How are you holding up? The bride-to-be's eyes darted left, right. Truthfully, she lowered her voice. I don't know. Preston hasn't answered my texts since Thursday. I think he's angry about the prenup. Anger signals wounded love, Cassandra said softly. Sometimes you have to let it bleed before it can heal. Charlotte managed a brittle smile. Then the microphone chirped, a cordless device produced by a staffer in white gloves. Eleanor tapped it twice, feedback squealed. Women settled, plates paused mid-air. Ladies, she began, tone syrupy. Thank you for celebrating my granddaughter's upcoming union with dear Preston Hughes. Today we honor tradition, family values, loyalty, and the timeless grace that defines Southern womanhood. She gestured toward Cassandra. Mrs. Hughes joins us, representing Preston's side. Let us welcome her warmly. The applause that followed felt compulsory, like tipping after bed service. Eleanor continued a quick housekeeping note. We ask that during gift opening, all photography be handled by our official club photographer only. Privacy is paramount. Translation: control the narrative. The bridesmaids lead Charlotte to an upholstered chair beneath a spray of orchids. Present unwrapping common monogram towels, heritage china, a Waterford vase, each item logged by Eleanor's assistant for thank you notes. Cassandra's yellow parcel emerged from behind champagne. The room leaned in. Eleanor cleared her throat. From Mrs. Hughes, she announced, reluctant. Charlotte untied the silk ribbon, peeled back paper. Inside lay a leather-bound journal. Antique edges gilded, on the front embossed in gold, the words choose your own legend. Charlotte traced the letters, lips parted. It's beautiful. Cassandra spoke loud enough for every curtain to hear. Belonged to my mother. She wrote dreams in here when the world told her dreaming was wasteful. Blank pages remain for yours. A few young women smiled. Older ladies exchanged glances. Sentimentality ranked low on their asset spreadsheets. Eleanor transitioned quickly. Lovely. Now on to charades. Servers circulated with champagne. Conversation swelled, and with it rumors. Cassandra drifted to a corner near the drapes. She knew better than to chase whispers. Whispers came to the shadows on their own, true to form. Two matrons parked themselves behind the velvet. Unaware, Cassandra stood 3 feet away studying a Gainsborough print. First voice, Pauline Luckler's brittle French lilt. Eleanor swears the Hughes woman demanded a stipend. Imagine. Second voice, Dorothea Crane, nasal. I heard she tried inserting herself into estate planning. Wants her grandson's name on Blueberry Farm deeds. Pauline scoffed. Next she'll expect a pew with the family crest at St. Andrews. Dorothea lowered volume. Cooper, the lawyer's lurk, mentioned something odd. He said the prenup specifically bars her from advising on finances. Why note that unless she's meddlesome? A pause kept slinking. Then perhaps she's fishing. These people get a whiff of money and their sentence dissolved as they moved down the drape line. Cassandra exhaled through her nose. Racism like mildew thrived in dark corners and velvet folds. Across the room, Iris Wickham summoned a cluster of sycophants with a crooked finger. Cassandra slid closer, hidden by a fias. Iris whispered, Harold Vale told me the old woman lives off Social Security. Eats at that heckin' in a bucket on Rutledge. Eleanor's being generous, letting her attend anything at all. Another laughed. Maybe she'll pocket the silverware if we're not careful. Cassandra's heart beat steady, forged over decades of hearing worse. Still, each barb sliced, reminding her that age didn't grant immunity. She fingered the Boucheron brooch at her collar, letting diamond tips ground her. A sudden tink-tink on crystal rang out. Bridesmaid Rachel lifted a flute. Time for wishes. Each guest shares advice for Charlotte. Women formed a semicircle. Cassandra found herself 4 spots from Eleanor, separated by Iris and Dorothea. One by one, guests offered platitudes. Never go to bed angry. Always wear lipstick. Keep separate bank accounts. Laughter, nods. Cassandra's turn arrived. She took the flute, weightless crystal between fingers. Every gaze pinned her. My advice, she said, voice warm but steady, is to remember marriage is not a merger of assets. It is a partnership of futures. Protecting wealth matters, but protecting each other matters more. If your partner falls, don't present him a balance sheet. Offer your hand. She held Iris' stare, then Dorothea's, then Eleanor's, because one day, child, storm clouds might wash away fortunes, facades, and fine china. Love will be what shelters you if you built it strong enough. Silence, then polite applause. Charlotte's eyes shimmered. Cassandra slipped back to the drapes. The club's powder room provided brief reprieve. Cassandra washed hands in marble sinks, watching scented water swirl. Behind her, a stall door creaked. Out stepped Felicity Boyd, the youngest Montgomery cousin, mid-30s, cheeks flushed. "Mrs. Hughes," she whispered, checking the door. "I need to tell you something." Cassandra regarded her kindly. "Yes, dear?" Felicity wrung her hands. "They're planning to bar you from the rehearsal dinner. Nana said it's improper optics. She thinks you'll embarrass the family." Tears welled. "I don't agree. I don't know how to stand up to her." Cassandra handed over a linen towel. "Thank you for the warning. Standing up begins with standing still. Root yourself in what's right, child. And storms can't move you. Even hurricanes pass." Felicity nodded, biting her lip. She left, shoulders lighter. Cassandra faced her reflection. Brown skin soft around laugh lines, silver-streaked curls framing calm eyes. She had weathered segregation, sexism, bearing a child, and building an empire from scholarship stipends and midnight oil. A rehearsal dinner ban would not dent her, but it would teach them. Outside, croquet lawns glowed under a setting sun. Charlotte's friends played a find the groom trivia game. Matrons lingered over digestives. Cassandra stepped onto the veranda for fresh air. 2 club employees set up fairy lights. Overhead, Spanish moss rustled. A voice joined her. "Care for a walk, Mrs. Hughes?" Iris Whitcomb, tall buttock-stretched smile, chairwoman of the Country Club Women's Council. Cassandra masked surprise. "A walk sounds pleasant." They strolled along a gravel path lined by camellias. Iris clasped her clutch like armor. "I prefer frankness," she began. "You're a sensible woman, I'm a practical one. The Montgomerys have standing. You have influence over Preston. Perhaps we can ensure smooth proceedings." Cassandra arched a brow. "And what do you believe would create smoothness?" "Keep expectations modest," Iris said. "No sudden requests, no press engagement. Stay in supportive, not spotlight roles. In return, the club will, of course, extend guest privileges for the ceremony." Guest privileges, as if bestowing water upon a thirsty traveler. Cassandra paused near a stone bench. "Mrs. Whitcomb, influence is a river. You may attempt to dam it, but it finds new channels. The question you must ask isn't whether I'll remain quiet, but whether you'll hear the rush when it arrives." Iris blinked, uncertain. Before she could respond, a slender man in a tailored vest hurried up the patch. "Lum manager Mr. Ellsworth." "Mrs. Hughes," he panted, "there's a phone call for you. Your office, I think, said it's urgent." Cassandra thanked him, followed to the reception desk. She lifted the receiver. Lillian's voice came crisp. "Madam Chairwoman, Azure Palms Management accepted our purchase offer on the club's debt notes. Papers finalized Monday." Cassandra tapped the mahogany counter. "And the confidentiality clause?" "In place. No public record until we choose." "Good. Set meeting for Wednesday with their board. Anonymous representative attending." "Yes, ma'am. Also, Preston called. Says he's coming to see you tonight." Cassandra smiled. "Tell him supper's at 7. She returned the handset. When she turned, Iris stood 2 paces away, curiosity flaring. Cassandra simply offered a grandmotherly nod and re-entered the parlor. Evening shadows stretched across the room as gift opening concluded. Eleanor linked her glass again. "Before we depart, a toast to tradition and to Charlotte's radiant future." She raised champagne. Cassandra lifted her water goblet. "To futures, may they surprise us kindly." Eleanor's jaw tightened. Guests sipped. Conversation splintered as the crowd filtered toward Othix. Cassandra felt someone tug her sleeve. Dorothea Crane stood, eyes darting. "I misjudged you," she whispered. "If you ever need historic preservation permits, call me." She slipped a card into Cassandra's palm and vanished. One domino down, Cassandra thought. They sensed shifting ground and sought footing. By the entrance, Charlotte hugged her, eyes moist. "Thank you for everything." She hesitated. "Nana said you might not be at the rehearsal dinner. Please come anyway. I want you there." Cassandra cupped her cheeks like a daughter's. "I'll be wherever truth belongs. Sweetheart, trust that." Eleanor appeared, shepherding Charlotte away with counterfeit warmth. As she turned, she gave Cassandra a single icy look, a pledge of ongoing war. Night settled over Charleston when Cassandra's Fusion rolled down a tree-lined street toward her clapboard bungalow. Porch light glowed. Preston's Tesla sat at the curb. He waited in the living room, pacing among shelves crammed with first editions and family photographs. The smell of shrimp etouffee simmered from the kitchen. "Gran," he strode forward, hugged her tight. "I'm sorry about that prenup. I should have protected you." Cassandra eased him onto the sofa. "Child, protecting me is like shielding thunder from rain." He managed a laugh, then grew serious. I've been researching Montgomery Holdings. Debt ratios are awful. They need my investment, not the other way around. Charlotte's inheritance isn't liquid, it's tied to real estate under mortgage. Her grandmother's leveraged to the hilt. Cassandra stirred sugar into 2 tea mugs. So what does your heart say? That I love Car Club, but I won't let her family treat you like this. He took a breath. I'm calling off the engagement unless they tear up that contract. Cassandra passed him tea, steam curled between them. Fighting from anger often spills more blood than intended, she warned. Let truth do the fighting, you simply open the curtain. He frowned. What truth? Cassandra considered. Disclosing her fortune now might derail the lesson forming. Timing mattered. The truth that money built on prejudice is a house of cards. Show them wind, and they collapse. Preston sipped, thoughtful. How? She tapped her temple. By Thursday you'll know. Open loops, she'd learned, kept stories, and palpable engaged. They ate supper, discussing code, blue crabs, and childhood pranks. Afterwards Preston kissed her forehead and left. Resolve shining, Cassandra watched taillights fade, hope and worry intertwining like jasmine vines. She climbed upstairs to her study where moonlight blanketed oak desk. There, blueprints awaited, plans for the Literacy Center, the Music Academy, and now Azure Palms itself. She napped her pen, began annotating margins, planting seeds in ink. Somewhere beyond the window, church bells struck 10. Cassandra whispered to the night. Storm's coming, Charleston. Best batten your velvet drapes. Sunday dawn painted the sky sherbet pink. At St. Andrew's Episcopal, pews filled with Charleston's elite for the 9 a.m. service. Cassandra entered alone, wearing a simple navy dress, hat tipped modestly. Ushers greeted her politely but placed her 6 rows behind the Montgomery box. Eleanor's curve of a back never turned. During communion, murmurs fluttered. That's sure, the grandmother signed the papers without a peep. They say, maybe she's angling for charity. Cassandra knelt, prayed for humility, for herself and her adversaries. When she rose, she glimpsed Felicity Boyd 2 pews ahead, spine straighter, small axe. She thought proceed great leaps. After service Eleanor hosted coffee in the fellowship hall. Silver corns hissed. Pastries lined lace doilies. Cassandra approached, plate in hand. Eleanor smiled thinly. Mrs. Hughes, delightful sermon, wasn't it? Reverend speaks so well on meekness. Yes, he does, Cassandra agreed. And on the blessed inheriting the earth. Makes one ponder what sort of inheritance we leave. Eleanor's nostrils flickered. She dropped sugar cubes into her cup with unnecessary clink. About the rehearsal dinner, unfortunately, seating is limited. Family only, I'm afraid. Cassandra stirred her coffee. I expected as much. Glad we understand each other. Cassandra met her gaze, unblinking. Oh, we do. The question is whether you understand yourself. She set down her cup, nodded politely, and walked away, leaving unanswered riddles swirling like steam. That evening Hattie Mae Jones, Cassandra's childhood friend now living in Atlanta, called during Wheel of Fortune. Girl, the grapevine sings ugly. Some Charleston lady told my cousin you got yourself banished to the kiddie table. Cassandra laughed. Let them sing. By the encore they'll change key. What's your play? Grace first, then gravity, Cassandra said. When the ground underneath them shifts, I want them remembering the hand I offered. Hattie echoed. You always were part preacher, part chess master. Life taught me both sermons and strategy. She hung up, heart steadied. Week 1 post-prenup had ended. Seeds of curiosity now sprouted behind velvet drapes. Watered by rumors and half-truths, soon roots would press against foundations the Montgomerys believed unshakable. Cassandra turned off the television, opened a novel, and read until eyelids drooped. Before sleep, she prayed, grant me patience, sharpen their vision, and shield the innocent from fallout. Outside, thunder muttered like a distant drumline. Storms were gathering, not in the sky, but in drawing rooms where women clutched pearls and whispered behind silk curtains. Unaware the woman they scorned now owned the very ceiling above their heads. The drapes would part soon, and when they did, sunlight, unyielding and golden, would pour through, illuminating every secret stitched in their velvet folds. Monday's dew still clung to magnolia petals when Charleston woke to its juiciest headline in months. Historic Bellevue Racket Club under new management. Anonymous holding company acquires debt. The Post-Courier splashed the rumor across page 2, insisting sources claimed a woman of color sat behind the purse strings. No names, only murmurs, a modern Scarlett O'Hara in reverse. By dusk, the story ballooned through drawing rooms like pollen in April. which made Pauline Muckler's annual Marshview Garden Soiree, scheduled that very evening, less a party and more a pressure cooker. Invitations were engraved gold on ivory, requesting ladies to wear pearls, gentlemen seersucker, and everyone to leave politics at the gate, but Charleston carried pitchforks in their whispers, and no gate could keep gossip penned. Cassandra Hughes arrived fashionably late, chauffeured in a modest Uber to maintain appearances. She wore a moss green sheath dress and a single strand of creamy pearls, gifts from Preston when his first app sold. Her silver hair was pulled into a low high nun, her calm smile the kind sailors trusted to steer through fog. Pauline's estate unfurled along the Ashley River, tired gardens, clipped hedges, stone fountains shaped like Greco nymphs. Lanterns swung from live oak branches, flickering amber against twilight's indigo. Violinists played jazz arrangements of Vivaldi while servers glided with trays of Pimenté's tartlets. But even music couldn't mask the hum. Who bought Bellevue? Was it the Hughes widow? And if so, with what coin? Cassandra sensed every sideways glance as she joined the crush beneath a striped marquee. She greeted a few librarians she funded anonymously, accepted cordial smiles from ministers' wives, and endured frosty nods from rowet league captains. Her ears, however, tuned for deeper notes. A cluster of men near the Bourbon Bar discussed the acquisition. Anonymous, please, scoffed Bradford Lyle, cotton broker. Bet it's a Silicon Valley hedge. Rumor says it's local, replied Trevor Crane, Dorothy's cousin. An E.H. Shell Corporation. Bradford barked, then we'll smoke him out. No Yankee with pocket change buys our institutions. Cassandra thought you'll need stronger fire when the logs are granite. She drifted toward the Rosalie where Charlotte, Felicity Boyd, and two bridesmaids inspected hydrangeas. Charlotte's face brightened when she spotted Cassandra. Mrs. Hughes, she breathed, relief palpable. I was hoping you'd come. She stepped forward, then hesitated at Felicity's warning glance. Eleanor hovered within earshot. Cassandra touched Charlotte's wrist briefly. Lovely evening. More like a coliseum, Felicity muttered. Everyone's hunting whoever bought Bellevue. None is certain it's you, and she's sharpening cutlery. Cassandra chuckled. Tell her to choose steak knives. Silver's easier to polish than rusted iron. Charlotte giggled despite nerves. You always say something I need to Google later. Keep Googling. Wisdom likes pursuit. Cassandra winked. A trumpet flourish summoned guests to the central lawn for Pauline's welcome speech. Fairy bulb chandeliers above the days flanked on, bathing silk gowns in warm light. Cassie noted seat cards. Eleanor front row, Preston 2 seats back, Charlotte beside him. Cassandra's card hid in row 3 center. Pauline wanted her visible. The crowd settled. Pauline, regal in plum taffeta and diamonds that could ransom a kingdom, stepped to the microphone. Bun Vainway, dear friends, tonight we toast old roots and new blooms. She gestured at topiary shaped like palmettos. Our city's heritage endures because we protect institutions like Bellevue Racquet Club. Which is why she paused for effect. Recent headlines trouble us. Change must honor pedigree. Eyes pinned Cassandra. We pray the new owner respects tradition. Murmurs rose. Cassandra stayed still, hands folded on her lap. Pauline continued, meanwhile, let us delight in music, wine, and fellowship. Applause, though hesitant. No sooner had violin strings resumed than Eleanor Montgomery glided down the aisle toward Cassandra, pearls gleaming like teach smiles. Mrs. Hughes, she said, voice low enough for privacy but pitched for nearby ears. I trust you read today's paper. I did. Interesting developments, Cassandra answered. Eleanor tilted her chin. If you have resources to purchase entry-old clubs, we'd appreciate transparency. Society abhors surprises. Cassandra met her gaze. Society sometimes needs a good surprise. It rouses the heart. I have no tolerance for riddles, Eleanor hissed. That's unfortunate, Cassandra replied softly, because life rarely offers answer keys beforehand. Before Eleanor could retort, Preston approached. He wore a linen blazer, anger barely leashed. Grandmother, Gran, he nodded to each. We need to talk. Eleanor straightened. Later, Preston, Pauline's about to unveil the new garden sculpture. Now, he insisted. He guided Cassandra toward a quiet fountain. Moonlight silvered coy ripples. Gran, he began, people keep hinting you're behind that Bellevue deal. Is it true? What do you think? She asked. He exhaled. I think you're capable of a lot more than you let on. But I'm scared this war with Eleanor will destroy my relationship. Cassandra laid a hand on his forearm. Wars destroy, stories enlighten. I'm crafting a story, not a war. Trust the pen. I do. He hesitated. I told Charlotte I'm refusing to sign final wedding contracts till the prenup changes. She's devastated, says Nana will cancel everything. Sometimes foundations need cracks before new grout strengthens them. Preston frowned. You're speaking masonry while I'm bleeding heart. She smiled. Hearts repair stronger at the broken places. They returned to the crowd where Pauline indeed unveiled a sculpture, an abstract bronze magnolia. Petals unfurling, cameras flashed, applause scattered, servers rolled out champagne pyramids. And then the first metaphorical pitchfork struck. Bradford Lyle, emboldened by bourbon, stepped onto the day's uninvited, microphone snatched. Ladies and gentlemen, he slurred, we need straight talk. Outsiders buying our clubs is like termites in timber. He pointed toward Cassandra. If a certain guest is flush enough to play Monopoly with Charleston landmarks, let her declare it like decent folk. Gasps. Camera swung. Cassandra steadied herself, weight shifting to her left foot, down a ready stance learned in childhood church socials. She said nothing. Bradford swayed. Well, silence means guilt in my book. Eleanor didn't intervene. She watched, lips thin. Pauline motioned to security. But curiosity outpaced decorum. Cassandra stepped forward slowly. Mr. Lyle, is it guilt to decline uncouth invitations? Laughter rippled, but Bradford persisted. Tell us how a pensioner bankrolls multi-million deals. Preston stepped beside her, voice clear. That's my grandmother you're harassing. Sit down. Bradford sneered. Rich talk from a man who sold an app and thinks he's Carnegie. Better Carnegie than crony. Preston bit back. Charlotte darted up, tugging Preston's sleeve. Please, this isn't helping. Cassandra touched Preston's shoulder, calming pressure. She addressed Bradford. Sir, money isn't character. One can be wealthy and bankrupt in spirit. Bradford laughed. Spare me the sermon, Mother Hubbard. Pauline stepped forward, cheeks blotched. Bradford, enough. But the ember had caught straw. A woman from the Croquet League shouted. If she's the buyer, she better pledge not to alter membership requirements. Another chimed, yes, don't drag politics into our sanctuary. Cassandra considered the throng, pearls strung like protective rosaries across throats. Faces flushed by fear of losing a game they'd rigged generations before. Time, she decided to offer olive branches before swinging axes. She lifted her voice, smooth yet carrying. Friends, I bear no ill will. Charleston's heritage is my heritage too, built by hands the history books sometimes overlook. If I owned Bellevue, she let the hypothetical dangle, I'd cherish its courts, its pavilions and broaden invitations so tennis echoed with more accents of joy. The line startled them, broaden invitations. Dorothea Crane ventured, meaning what, precisely? Meaning children from local schools could train there after class. Meaning veterans could rehab injuries on those courts. Meaning tradition grows stronger when more roots drink the soil. Murmurs, some thoughtful, some defensive. Pauline tried to lighten the mood. A toast to community then? Glasses rose half-heartedly. Thunder rumbled in distant sky, though forecasts promised clear weather. Cassandra watched clouds bruise indigo. Felt electricity prickle skin. Nature mirrored tensions. Eleanor finally spoke, crisp as a gavel. If you intend grand social experiments, Mrs. Hughes, have the courtesy to finance them elsewhere. Cassandra faced her. Courtesy is mutual. I signed your prenup without fuss. Turned the other cheek at exclusion from family dinners and endured rumor without slander. My courtesy is ledgered in full. A hush deep enough to hear cicadas. Eleanor opened her mouth, but lightning split the sky, thunder cracking overhead. Gasps turned skyward. Rain exploded, massive southern droplets plastering chiffon, freezing coiffures. Guests shrieked, dashing for tents. Musicians scrambled, bowstrings slipping. The champagne pyramid toppled, glass raining like crystal hail. Pauline's topiary magnolia wilted. Cassandra stood beneath sudden storm, serene, rain drumming her pearls. She thought of her mother's hymn showers of blessing. Mercy drops round us or falling? Preston grabbed Charlotte's hand, guiding her under the marquee. Eleanor hurried after, scolding staff. Bradford cursed the heavens. Cassandra remained until soaked, then strolled toward the estate's veranda where she found Iris Whitcomb breathing hard. You conjured that weather, didn't you? Iris half-joked, half-housed. Only heaven wields clouds, Cassandra said, but storms know when to arrive. Iris brushed rain from her mink wrap, though it only smeared water. Whoever owns Bellevue has a target now. Bradford's influence reaches city council. Cassandra squeezed water from her sleeve. Influence that depends on whose name signed the council's campaign checks. She handed Iris a waterproof laminated card, no branding, only a phone number. If you ever decide to see tennis scholarships for under-risk youth, call. Iris eyed the card like dynamite. Is this your number? It's a door-marked opportunity, Cassandra answered and walked inside. Damp guests huddled in Pauline's ballroom. Air conditioning battled humidity, fogging window panes. Waiters produced towels, whiskey, apologies. Cassandra found Preston and Charlotte near a fireplace. Charlotte shivered. Water streaked her mascara. Why does everything collapse around me? Cassandra wrapped a towel about her shoulders. Sometimes collapse clears ground for stronger pillars. Charlotte whispered, "Did you buy Bellevue?" Cassandra paused. The buyer will reveal themselves when the time helps hearts, not hurts them. Charlotte looked both relieved and mystified. Nearby, Bradford whined to Harold Vale, "Mark my words, we'll petition to revoke that sale." Harold murmured assent, but his expression faltered. New legal ground was shaky. At 10, Pauline announced carriages. Coopers waited. Guests dispersed into steaming night air. Rain had stopped. Stars pricked velvet sky as if nothing dramatic had happened. But Cassandra knew seeds were sodden, ready to sprout. Preston escorted her to the driveway. "Gran, I finally understand. You're holding every card, and they don't even know which game you chose." She smiled. "I'm holding lanterns, dear. Darkness fears light." He hugged her, whispered, "Thank you for teaching me chess when I only knew checkers." "Lessons continue," she said. "Now get Charlotte somewhere dry. Love's immune system weakens in cold." He laughed, promised to call. Her Uber arrived, a college student with rainbow air freshener. Cassandra rode back through glistening streets, pondering tomorrow's steps, Wednesday's secret board meeting, Felicity's wavering conscience, and Charlotte's future journal entries in that leather book. Midnight found Cassandra sipping peppermint tea on her porch. Lillian phoned breaking news. County clerk's office leaked that the Bellevue buyer's lull is chaired by a CMU's. Reporters are digging. Cassandra had inhaled crisp post-storm air. Let them dig. Soil turned as fertile. What's the plan? Release a statement tomorrow. Foundation aims to democratize wellness and heritage. Keep the focus on opportunity, not ownership. And the Montgomerys? Invite them to tour Bellevue's courts with school children next week. Bold. Sunscreen stings eyes unaccustomed to full light, Cassandra said. They will learn. She ended the call, gaze drifting to streetlights reflected in puddles. Thunder grumbled far away, pearls at her neck cooled against damp skin, each bead born from irritation inside an oyster, smoothed into beauty by patience. Pitchforks could scratch but not shatter pearls. The garden soiree was over, but its rain-doused chaos had nourished the lesson prejudice recoils when confronted by resilience it can neither own nor erase. Tomorrow would bring more whispers, sharpened pitchforks, but also the first buds of respect. Cassandra hummed the hymn again. Mercy drops round us are falling. But for the showers we plead. Showers had come. Now she prayed the garden grew strong, even if some branches had to bend until they broke. She closed her eyes, thanking the storm, and waited for dawn. The sun broke over Charleston on Tuesday with a smear of gold so vivid it looked hand-painted. Yet Preston Hughes woke in darkness. His curtains were open, his Tesla battery read full, and the email pings chimed optimism, but inside his chest a storm turned circles. The garden soiree had left wreckage in its wake. He sat on the edge of his loft's platform bed, barefoot on cool heart pine floors, and reread the text Charlotte had sent at 2:11 a.m. I love you. I'm terrified. Nana says the wedding is on hold until the truth comes out. Please talk to me before the family lawyers do. Below it, 9 missed calls from Eleanor's attorney, and 1 simple message from his grandmother. Breakfast, omelets at 7, bring your questions. Preston showered, dressed in a navy polo and jeans, and drove east toward Cassandra's bungalow. Spanish moss arches blushed in sunrise. He rehearsed speeches, some angry, some pleading, until he realized the only script that mattered was the one still unwritten in his spine, whether he would finally choose conviction over convenience. Cassandra was on the porch with 2 plates of hive omelet, sliced tomatoes and grits the color of pale cloud. She motioned him to sit. No small talk, no weather. Tell me the decision haunting you, she said. Preston exhaled. I can't marry Charlotte under that prenup. But if I refuse, she loses her inheritance. If I sign, you're barred from my life and the Montgomerys control me. If I walk away, I break Charlotte's heart and maybe my own. He speared tomato, tasted nothing. Cassandra laid down her fork. Crossroads reveal the road inside a man, not the road beneath his feet. Gran, I need less proverb, more blueprint. All right, she ticked points on fingers. Option 1, you sign. Accept their terms, and spend decades negotiating dignity. Option 2, you refuse. See if Charlotte stands with you. and you both confront her family together. Option 3, you hunt a third way the contract architects never imagined. Preston frowned. What third way? Renegotiate the prenup yourself. Insert clauses that protect Charlotte from her grandmother, protect me from exclusion, and protect you both from the toxicity of generational prejudice. He scoffed. They'll never agree. People hungry to maintain power will trade almost anything except the illusion they already have enough, she said. Offer them a bigger illusion. She slid a file folder across the table. Inside, balance sheet analysis of Montgomery Holdings, property tax delinquencies, balloon payment schedules. Eleanor's empire is leveraged to the gills. She needs the wedding for investor confidence. Preston blinked. Where did you get these? Public records, private math. Cassandra shrugged. Truth loves sunlight. He paged through, brain-firing calculations. If these numbers go public, creditors panic. But you'll keep them private, Cassandra said, in exchange for a prenup written in mutual respect. That's the third way. He looked up. Leverage her secrets like she leveraged ours? To expose, not exploit, Cassandra corrected. You hold the lantern, remember? Shine, don't scorch. He nodded slowly. I'll draft terms today. And meet Charlotte first. Why? Because love deserves transparency before tactics. Preston squeezed her hand, gratitude thick. Thank you. She held his gaze. One more thing. Tomorrow morning at Bellevue Court 3. I'm hosting a clinic for local middle schoolers. I'd like you coaching serves. He smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Charlotte agreed to coffee at the Battery, a cobbled promenade overlooking Charleston Harbor where wind smelled of brine and cannon history. She wore a rose cardigan, eyes puffy from sleeplessness. Thank you for coming, she began. Nana's furious. She thinks your grandmother staged the thunderstorm. Preston almost laughed, but tears rimmed her lashes. He reached across the cafe table. I love you. We can fix this if we're honest. Charlotte's shoulders sagged. Honesty in my family is like contraband. You get caught with it, you're punished. He pulled out the folder Cassandra had given. Your grandmother's business is weaker than she admits. If we marry under her prenup, we inherit liability, not safety. I drafted a new agreement. Charlotte's eyes widened as she skimmed. Key points: joint ownership of any marital home. Both families barred from pressuring financial decisions. Cassandra named honorary advisor with veto power on charitable giving. Automatic annulment of all clauses if either family engages in discriminatory behavior. Charlotte looked up. She'll never sign this. She will if we stand together, Preston said. Because the alternative is me walking away. Charlotte's lip trembled. I hate ultimatums. So do I, but silence is an ultimatum dressed prettier, he replied. Were you ever afraid to marry me for me? No, calmly afraid Nana wouldn't let me. Then be brave. She closed the folder, slid it back. I need time. You have until Thursday, he said gently. That's when the rehearsal dinner happens, without me unless this is resolved. Wednesday dawned bright, courts at Bellevue glistening after a quick hose. The press had tried tracing the new owner but ran into nonprofit shields. Still, a few reporters lingered outside the gates, cameras ready. Inside, 30 middle schoolers from Southside Academy clutched borrowed rackets, giggling. Cassandra, in white tracksuit and visor, greeted each child by name. Memorized the roster at sunrise. Preston demonstrated serves, tossing neon balls skyward, cracking them over the net to gasps. Remember, he told the kids, power comes from the legs, not the arm, same in life. A small girl, Tanisha, tried the ball, dribbled off her racket. Preston crouched, bent knees, breathe, swing up like you're high-fiving the sky. She served clean over the net, cheers erupted. Behind the fence, Eleanor and Pauline arrived unannounced, followed by a post-courier photographer. Cassandra spotted them, waved breezily. Eleanor scowled. Trespassing on private property? Private to whoever holds the deed, Cassandra said. Care to see? She produced a folder, same design as Preston's, except this one bore the House Walker Foundation seal. Eleanor's face strained. Pauline peered. The realization the rumors were true. Cassandra's foundation owned the club. You deceived us, Eleanor whispered. I concealed facts to reveal hearts, Cassandra replied, and I'm still revealing. She gestured to the children. Meet the future members of Bellevue. Pauline watched a boy land his first volley, wonder softening her envy. They actually play well. Talent thrives where opportunity waters, Cassandra said. The reporter snapped photos. Eleanor recoiled. No pictures. Public sidewalk, the reporter shrugged. Preston approached, sweet-chinsed, racket resting on shoulder. Morning, grandmother. Eleanor forced a smile for the photographer. Preston, darling, come. We must discuss Thursday. Preston glanced at Cassandra, who nodded time. He followed Eleanor into the empty clubhouse. Inside the Coke-penciled lounge, Eleanor poured herself iced tea, linking cubes like punctuation. Your grandmother's antics risk humiliating everyone, she began. Call off these charity stunts until after the wedding. Preston folded arms. They're not stunts, they're values. Eleanor's veneer cracked. You think ideals keep lights on? We need this union for investor confidence. Sign the prenup, end the circus, and you'll have everything. Preston laid the revised document between them. Here's the only contract I'll sign. Eleanor skimmed, her nostrils flared. Never. Montgomery Holdings will not grant advisory power to that woman. Then there's no wedding, he said. She slammed the table. You've ruined your fiancé to placate your grandmother's ego. My grandmother's integrity, he corrected. Eleanor's eyes hardened. Fine. Charlotte will see reason without you. Preston left, heart thundering yet lighter. That night, Cassandra's living room became war room. Preston, Lillian via Zoom, and attorney Marcus Grant crowded around the coffee table. Cassandra supplied sweet potato pie. Strategy required sugar. Marcus outlined options. If Eleanor refuses, the engagement dissolves. We issue press framing Bellevue as Ival rights expansion. Montgomery shares tumble, she'll negotiate. Preston bit pie, thought aloud, I don't want her ruined, just reformed. Then offer a lifeline, Cassandra said. Settle her debt quietly in exchange for signing. Marcus raised eyebrows. That's tens of millions. Cassandra shrugged. My rainy day fund, besides storms teach. Preston stared. You bail out the woman who humiliated you? I'd bail out Charlotte and every employee depending on that empire. Cassandra said, mercy is cheaper than collateral damage. He squeezed her hand. Deal. Thursday morning, Charlotte arrived at Cassandra's porch alone, hair unkempt, eyes red. Cassandra brewed chamomile. Nana canceled the caterer, the florist, everything, Charlotte sobbed. She says the wedding's off unless I convince Preston. Convince him or yourself? Cassandra asked quietly. Charlotte wiped tears. Both, maybe. I love him, but family loyalty, she crumpled. Cassandra handed tissues. Loyalty that demands silence and injustice is not loyalty, it's bondage. Charlotte nodded, voice small. I read Preston's contract. It's fair, better than fair. So what do you fear? That if I defy Nana I become nobody. Cassandra leaned forward. Child, identity built on another's permission collapses when they blink. Be your own architect. Charlotte breathed, straightened. How? Start by speaking truth to Nana tonight. Charlotte swallowed. Come with me? Cassandra smiled. I'll be your lantern outside the door, but you must walk in. Evening draped indigo across the Montgomery estate as Charlotte and Cassandra arrived. Preston waited near wrought iron gates, suit jacket slung over shoulder. You ready? He asked Charlotte. She laced her fingers with his. Yes. They entered the drawing room where Eleanor, Harold Vale, and family attorney Benson Crane sat beneath portraits of stern ancestors. Eleanor rose. So this is the rebellion. Preston placed the new prenup on a silver tray. Sign, and the wedding continues. Refuse and we walk. Benson adjusted spectacles. These terms assign veto power to Mrs. Hughes regarding charitable activities. Charlotte spoke, voice stronger than any had heard, and a clause guaranteeing equal say for Preston in family businesses. Harold began, Sweetie, let's be rational. She faced him. Rational is building a marriage on equality, Daddy. Eleanor's lips trembled. Have you forgotten who nurtured you? Charlotte's eyes filled, but she held firm. Nurture shouldn't suffocate. Silence. Clock ticked. Finally, Eleanor looked to Preston. What assurance do I have you won't expose our finances? Preston slid an envelope. Letter of intent from a trust ready to settle your outstanding loans. No interest. One you sign. Eleanor's jaw dropped. Why would you gift us? Cassandra stepped from the doorway. Because bondage ends when either side unlocks the chains. Eleanor's reddened eyes darted. Pride dueled desperation. She signed. Harold followed. Benson notarized. Preston exhaled. Charlotte sobbed relief. Eleanor whispered to Cassandra, why help me? Because I swore storms would water gardens, Cassandra replied. Even weeds deserve a chance to bloom into something better. Eleanor nodded, tears glistening, the first apology stuck on her tongue but not yet voiced. The rehearsal dinner relocated last minute to Bellevue's river veranda, now strung with lanterns by volunteer parents of the tennis kids. Menu shrimp boil, cornbread, peach hobbler, simple, joyous. Guests mingled librarians, country club matrons, middle schooklers tossing frisbees with senators' sons. Boundaries blurred under fairy lights. Cassandra watched from a rocker, pearls catching candlelight. Preston brought Charlotte over. "She wants to ask you something," he said. Charlotte knelt beside Cassandra. "Would you stand in for my late mother during tomorrow's ceremony? Walk me down the aisle with Daddy." Cassandra's eyes glistened. "I'd be honored." Cheers erupted suddenly. Tenisha had served an ace past a state-ranked junior. Laughter echoed, and even Bradford Lyle, drink in hand, clapped begrudging respect. Cassandra whispered to Charlotte, "Hear that? Future beating the past." Charlotte squeezed her hand. "Thank you for everything." The night wound down with gospel jazz quartet improvising "What a Wonderful World." Couples swayed, stars blinked approval. Preston slipped beside Cassandra, voice low. Crossroad cleared, lantern held. She patted his cheek. "Road stretches on, keep packing light, faith, courage, love." He looked across the deck at Charlotte laughing with felicity, then back at his grandmother. "I will, because you built the map." Cassandra smiled, listening to river-lapping pilings like applause from quiet water. The chapter of doubt had closed, the journey of shared power began. And in the hush between fiddle riffs, she offered silent thanks for crossroads that reveal character, and for hearts brave enough to choose the uncharted path that leads everyone home. Friday dawned over Charleston with a humidity that wrapped rooftops in gauzy fog, as though the whole city had been dipped overnight in warm milk. The wedding was 24 hours away, but the morning belonged to another ritual: Eleanor Montgomery's weekly high tea salon, an institution she'd cultivated for 3 decades where power traded hands under sugar tongs and biscotti crumbs. Today, however, the parlor that usually smelled of bergamot and complacency vibrated with unease. Cassandra Hughes had accepted the invitation. That single sentence, murmured down telephone lines and over Pilates mats, set every guest on edge. Some hoped for reconciliation, others expected a showdown. But none anticipated the true purpose behind Cassandra's gracious yes to pierce the last veil covering the Montgomery books, and the fictions hidden inside them. 12:59 p.m. Azure Palms Country Club Library Suite. Rose-patterned tops sat primly on a lace-covered walnut table, a trio of silver teapot steamed Earl Grey, Darjeeling, and a seasonal lavender chamomile. Eleanor had chosen her armor for the day: a cream silk blouse, double-strand Mikomoto pearls, and the subtle stiffness of someone ready to face judgment yet determined to control the verdict. Her allies arrived first. Iris Whitcomb swept in wearing lime linen and the kind of smile that could cut glass. Dorothea Crane followed, clasping a portfolio as though it were a life vest. Pauline Leclerc, recovering from the Sorry's storm debacle, hobbled on kitten heels, ankle still sore from slipping on wet turf. Bradford Lyle was not invited. Tea was a ladies' affair, but he lurked by the bar down the hall, nursing wounded pride in a mid-julep at noon. Charlotte took a seat near the window, close enough to witness each nuance but far enough to avoid the conversational front lines. It was the first salon she'd attended without following signals from her grandmother. Beside her, Felicity Boyd pretended to scroll her phone yet recorded everything mentally. Felicity's conscience had sprouted fast since the powder room confessional. At exactly 1:05 Cassandra entered. No fanfare, just a gentle hush that cinched throats. She wore a dove blue wrap dress, diamond-tipped cane in hand, not for necessity but symbolism, a reminder of ground she'd claimed step by unhurried step. Eleanor Rose guests followed like chess pieces obeying the queen, for a heartbeat. Tea china rattled from breath alone. "Mrs. Hughes," Eleanor greeted, voice poised between frost and warmth. "We're delighted you could join us." Cassandra smiled. Tea always tastes sweeter shared. She slid into the empty chair opposite Eleanor, cane propped against table edge, eyes settling like calm tides on each guest. Pouring began, the salon's orchestrated ballet. Eleanor claimed host rights, filling cups clockwise. Starting with Iris, protocol dictated conversation stay light until tea cooled. But tension disobeyed etiquette today, bubbling before the saucers warmed. Iris set down her cup. "Shall we address the headline none of us can escape? Anonymous benefactor rewrites Bellevue Racket Club mission. The post practically anoints you, Cassandra." Cassie sipped Darjeeling. "They anoint possibility, not me." Pauline cleared her throat. "Possibility is lovely, dear, but numbers keep doors open. Opening courts to the public requires funding. May we know the ledger?" "Which ledger?" Cassandra asked mildly. "The one counting dollars or the one counting dignity?" Eyebrows arched. Dorothea jumped in. "Let's not pretend finances and philanthropy aren't married." We just prefer open books to rumors. Eleanor's jaw flexed. What my friends wish to convey is that transparency invites trust. You've gained substantial, shall we say, influence over our institutions this week. Cassie placed her cup precisely in saucer. And you're wondering what other shoes will drop. No one denied it. Cassandra folded hands. Very well. I didn't come to unveil more purchases. I came to unveil truth. Tea, lies, and hidden ledgers belong together only until sunlight spills. She nodded, and as if on cue, the library doors opened. Lillian entered carrying a slim laptop and a baton-shaped presentation pointer. An audible gasp outsiders never breached Eleanor's salon without advance betting. Eleanor half rose. Excuse me. Cassandra's voice, soft but undeniable, interrupted. Lillian Walker, my chief of staff. She'll project a brief set of documents for our eyes only. Dorothea blanched. Digital files? Here? Iris muttered. Mercy, I need gin. Cassandra reassured. Nothing leaves this room. My intent is understanding, not humiliation. She looked to Eleanor, seeking permission. Pride warred with apprehension in the matriarch's posture. But the new prenup, signed and notarized, bound her to courtesy. She sat. Lillian connected to the library's overhead monitor. A splash screen displayed Montgomery Holdings' internal ledger summary, fiscal aid. Eleanor's pearls seemed to tighten around her throat. Slide 1 debt schedule. Red bars spiked across months. Interest-only payments. Balloon notes. Cassandra narrated calmly. Your real estate ventures depend on short-term bridge loans at variable rates. Rising interest has doubled monthly obligations since last spring. Iris whispered, is this public? Public if you know where to look, Cassandra answered, but cross-indexed here for clarity. Slide 2 asset valuations versus market. Blue column shrank, depicting cover-leveraged appraisals declining with market corrections. Pauline fanned herself. Those properties are landmarks. Landmarks can still lose value when foundations crack, Cassandra said. Slide 3 displayed something Eleanor herself hadn't seen, an account labeled Legacy Operations Transfer. 24 hours ago, a green arrow indicated a balance of $25 million reddited, proof of Preston's trust settling the loans, contingent upon the prenup's new signatures. Eleanor inhaled sharply. Cassandra addressed her directly. Your grandson's love and my faith furnished that lifeline. Not to control you but to free you from debt's chokehold and, hopefully, from fear disguised as tradition. Silence met her words, thick as the fog still hovering on riverbanks. The final slide bore a simple question: what do we value? Beneath 2 columns, control and community. Cassandra spoke. Control hoards, community multiplies. Tea without conversation is water. Money without purpose is dust. You invited me to share tea. I now invite you to share community. She clicked off the monitor. Lillian unplugged silently and slipped out, leaving the salon in stunned quiet broken only by the faint hiss of cooling kettles. Charlotte found her voice first. Grandmother, we can use this, can't we? A chance to restructure to include new partners. Eleanor's eyes shimmered, anger, shame, relief blurring into something unnameable. She looked at Cassandra. Why not expose me to the world? It would have been easy. Because justice untempered by mercy sows new injustice, Cassandra said. I'd rather plant a living thing than carve a headstone. Pauline touched Eleanor's sleeve. Perhaps this is the fresh start we privately prayed for. Iris blinked. I never prayed, but I'm suddenly inclined. Dorothea, still clutching her portfolio, opened it. I've drafted a proposal for joint stewardship of the Preservation Society with a more diverse board. I was afraid to present it. Consider this my courage. She slid the papers toward Cassandra and Eleanor. Cassandra smiled. Courage loves company. The tea session unfolded differently now. Questions shifted from suspicion to curiosity. How to finance youth programs? Could club kitchens host culinary apprentices? Would donors back a Raqqa and reading camp each summer? Ideas layered like lace, personalities weaving a new tapestry. Cassandra provided gentle guidance, praising each suggestion, deflecting ego where needed. Eleanor listened, cheeks warming with something that felt like dawn. By the time plates held only crumbs, she cleared her throat. Ladies, she began, voice unsteady, I spent years guarding gates. Miss Hodds, she corrected herself. Cassandra has shown me gates can become doorways. I propose we rebrand our tea salon into a civic council. Monthly, open chairs for women of every ward. A collective breath, then Pauline clapped politely. Iris followed. Charlotte beamed. Cassandra lifted her cup to doorways. Porcelain chimed agreement. Tea concluded, but 2 conversations remained. First, Cassandra and Eleanor stepped into the adjacent sunroom, lemon trees perfuming the air. Light slanted across Eleanor's profile, illuminating lines drawn by decades of tight control. "I owe you apologies no words can settle," she said softly. "But I will speak them anyway." Cassandra held up a hand. "Actions will finish what words begin. There will be times you slip into old patterns. When that happens, recall today." Eleanor nodded. Tears formed. "I thought power was a fortress. You taught me it's a bridge." "Bridges require maintenance," Cassandra replied. "Paint yours with empathy before rust sets." Eleanor managed a watery laugh. "I shall." She extended an envelope. "I started drafting this last night, my personal contribution to Bell Youth Tennis Literacy Fund. Only a start." Cassandra accepted with grateful eyes. Seeds grow. They parted, hearts lighter. Second conversation occurred in the hallway, where Iris cornered Cassandra near a mahogany bookcase. "I misjudged you," Iris said. "I protected comfort, not character. Teach me how to calibrate." Cassandra considered. "Start with your own club's audit membership criteria. Identify unspoken barriers." Iris sighed. "Pushback will be brutal." "Invite me to your first reform meeting," Cassandra offered. "I'll bring lanterns." Iris exhaled, gratitude softening the sharpness around her eyes. "Deal." Outside, Bradford Lyle confronted Cassandra at the portico, hat doffed. The mint julep had emboldened him. "I still say tradition matters more than sentiments." Cassandra regarded him kindly. "Tradition without integrity is nostalgia's shadow. Good day, Mr. Lyle." She stepped past, cane tapping marble-like punctuation. Bradford watched her go, uncertainty replacing bluster. Some lessons required time and perhaps another storm. Evening. Cassandra returned home to find Preston and Charlotte assembling wedding favors, small jars of honey sourced from a black-owned apothecary and tied with tags that read "Love is sweeter shared." They looked up, expectant. "How'd tea go?" Preston asked. Cassandra slipped the envelope from Eleanor onto the coffee table. "Well enough that honey will taste like progress tomorrow." Charlotte lifted the donation letter, eyes widening. "Nana never signs charitable pledges larger than her dress size." "Growth looks good on her," Cassandra said. They continued tying ribbons. Cassandra shared highlights, punctuated by laughter. At one point Charlotte paused. "You're giving us more than a wedding. You're giving our city a new compass." Cassandra shook her head. "Compass was always here. We merely polished its glass." Preston toasted an imaginary glass to polishing. Laughter filled the bungalow until near midnight. Meanwhile, across town, Eleanor sat at her mahogany desk writing in a fresh leather journal Charlotte had once abandoned for dust. On the first page she penned, "Truth is not the enemy of legacy, secrecy is." She underlined it twice. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she dialed her attorney. "Benson, it's time we draft a diversity clause for the Montgomery Trust. And while you're at it, cancel my subscription to the Family Harbor Yacht Lube." "Yes, I'm sure." She hung up, surprised by the lightness in her chest. A breeze drifted through open French doors, lifting lace curtains like sails. For the first time in decades, Eleanor felt her life turning toward a horizon she had only ever feared. It was terrifying and exhilarating. Elsewhere, Dorothea Crane emailed the Preservation Society board a revised charter. Iris texted 3 influential mothers inviting them to a brainstorming brunch titled Inclusive Futures. Pauline called her accountant to arrange scholarship funds for culinary students. Dominoes toppled gently, powered by quiet revelations in a tea salon where ledgers once hid. Around 2 a.m., Cassandra stood on her porch staring at a nearly full moon. Lillian had sent a final text County Council approved permitting fast track for the Literary Court project. She closed her phone, breathed jasmine-laced night air, and whispered, "Thank you, Mama," to the stars. Behind her, wedding programs waited in neat stacks. Tomorrow she would walk Charlotte halfway down the aisle, Daddy on one arm, Cassandra on the other, proving that families sown from respect can outshine any stitched by mere pedigree. She hummed softly, an old spiritual her mother taught this little light of mine. "I'm gonna let it shine." The refrain drifted over rose bushes, across quiet streets, and into dreams of people waking to new maps. Tea had revealed lies, ledgers, love, and the liberating power of shared truth. Morning would bring vows and violins, but tonight belonged to gentle Vittori, a sweetness steeped longer than any tea could brew, served in humble cups across Charleston's sleeping heart. His Saturday wedding day, 11 p.m. The sanctuary at St. Andrew's glowed amber as late afternoon sun poured through stained glass saints, flooding polished pews with jeweled light. Vivaldi floated from a string quartet. Hydrangeas and yellow roses spilled from alabaster curtains. The ceremony had ended 20 minutes earlier. Harclad Bale was now Charlotte Bale Cowes. Preston's gold band nestled beside a grandmother's heirloom diamond. Guests filed out with misted eyes, led toward Bellevue Racquet Club for the black tie gala reception. Yet even as the church bells rang in celebration, Cassandra Hughes sensed unfinished business. The wedding knot was secure, the social knot still tangled. Certain power brokers, Bradford Lyle among them, had spent the week plotting one last play to reclaim control. Rumor said they would strike at the gala, airing allegations that Cassandra's takeover of Bellevue violated zoning statutes and nonprofit codes. A public spectacle on the city's biggest bridal stage, that was their plan. Cassandra sighed, smoothing her dove blue wrap she'd changed into for the evening. The trick with storms, her mother always said, was not to chase them away, but to redirect their rain where crops thirsted. She retrieved a slim folder from her lunch, a dossier compiled by Lillian overnight that would turn Bradford's thunder into life-giving water. Is 6:42 p.m. Bellevue Racquet Club Riverfront Pavilion. Lanterns twinkled across pergolas draped in wisteria, a clear span marquee, erected over center court, rivaled any Manhattan ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from trusses, parquet floors replaced clay, and 150 guests in tuxedos and gowns clustered around champagne fountains. Each table bore a card, "Love builds bridges," Charlotte had insisted, a quiet nod to the lesson learned at tea, at table 8. Reporters adjusted camera lenses, media credentials accepted at the last minute by Eleanor herself, a sign she'd swapped secrecy for transparency. Bradford lingered by the cigar lounge, flanked by 2 aldermen he bankrolls every election cycle. His linen dinner jacket strained over impatience. He clutched a manila envelope stamped "Confidential." Across the pavilion, Iris Whitcomb escorted Tanisha and 3 other Southside Academy kids, today's honorary junior ushers, toward the dessert bar. The children's eyes grew at towers of chocolate-dipped strawberries. Some guests raised brows. Iris lifted her chin. Inclusion was her new badge. Cassandra arrived on Preston's arm. Charlotte walked with Eleanor, a symbolic switch. Preston had requested elder wisdom guiding both sides equally. Murmurs followed them like camel glow trails. The band switched to an Ella Fitzgerald standard. Cassandra smiled at Preston. "Enjoy the first dance. I'll be nearby, lantern in hand." He kissed her cheek. "Thank you for all of it." It's 7:13 p.m. The first dance. String lights dimmed, a follow spot pooled in the center. Preston and Charlotte stepped onto the floor as Louis Armstrong's Love and Rose floated. She rested head to his heart. He whispered, "Home." Cassandra watched with warmth until a chill pricked skin. Bradford was on the move. He crossed toward the portable stage where Master of Ceremonies Coach Hamilton, Preston's old track coach, prepared to announce dinner. Bradford intercepted him, envelope flashing like a dagger. Cassandra pivoted, intercepting from the opposite side. Their convergence resembled 2 bishops inching across a chessboard. "Given in, Mrs. Hughes," Bradford said, false courtliness dripping. Sweat glistened at his temple. "Care to witness a little civic housekeeping?" She regarded him calmly. "Housekeeping requires clean hands, Mr. Lyle." He chuckled, brandishing the envelope. "In here are documents proving your foundation violated procurement rules buying Bellevue. Public asset disguised as private deed. When the MC reads this statement, your halo dims, investors flee, and the club reverts to auction." Around them, guests sensed static. Iris paused mid-conversation. Dorothy's teacup hovered. Cassandra leaned in. "Tell me, did you also include the part where those procurement rules were struck from code 6 months ago? Are the Idiansel waiver granted Thursday?" Bradford blinked. That information was not in his dossier. "Waiver?" She opened her clutch, slid out a single sheet embossed with the Charleston seal. "Unanimous vote. Sponsored by Councilwoman Cordy's hose mother scrubs floors at Bellevue twice a week. Progress arrives when doors open." Bradford's face modeled. "Paper tricks won't silence the truth." "True, which is why we'll share the truth together." Cassandra raised 2 fingers. The band softened. Coach Hamilton looked up, confused, then handed her the microphone instinctively, the room's natural conductor claiming her baton. "The spotlight, oh." Cassandra's voice rolled warm, amplified but intimate. "Friends, may I borrow 2 minutes before supper?" Silk rustled into stillness. Preston and Charlotte halted their dance, sensing gravity yet trusting her compass. Many here know Bellevue's story, some have heard distorted versions. Let's pour clarity before champagne. She gestured toward Bradford. "Mr. Lyle holds documents he believes expose wrongdoing. I invited him to present alongside me. Gasps. Bradford stumbled onto stage, forced by etiquette. Sweat darkened his collar. Cassandra continued, he claims our foundation used improper channels to acquire this historic venue. What he hasn't seen is the waiver granted to nonprofit coalitions aiming to expand youth wellness. She lifted the seal-stamped sheet, approved by council, audited by state. She handed both documents to a roving camera linked to overhead screens. PS-filled twin monitors. Bradford's outdated code references on left, the new ordinance on right. Murmurs shifted, confusion to enlightenment to faint scorn for Bradford's blunder. Bradford tried salvage, even with waivers. Tax valuations were affirmed yesterday by independent auditors. Cassandra finished, clicking remote. Next slide. Priest Waterhouse letterhead certifying compliance. But let's not joust over ink. Let's review impact. Images flashed. Tanisha serving in ACE veterans in wheelchairs practicing pickleball. Classroom corners stocked with donated novels. Applause flickered. Cassandra lowered the mic momentarily, faced Bradford alone. Will you help expand this impact, or cling to barricades already crumbled? Eyes darted. Bradford's allies stepping back, sponsors frowning. He swallowed. Eleanor stepped forward, surprising him. Mr. Lyle, she said, voice ringing. Our family has decided to match the Hovis Walker endowment dollar for dollar. Unless you'd prefer to obstruct children's futures? Bradford's shoulders sagged under spotlight's heat. He mustered a smile resembling defeat's final twitch. Count me in. He shook Cassandra's extended hand. Cameras captured the uneasy truce. Thunderous applause erupted, genuine, rolling like surf. Coach Hamilton reclaimed Mick. And now, supper. Laughter burst, tension exhaled. The band struck. Stevie Wonder's sign, sealed, delivered. Guests flooded Buffett lines. Stories ready for Monday brunch. 8:05 p.m. Riverside veranda. Cassandra retreated to the veranda, needing air. Fireflies scribbled neon calligraphy over water. Lillian joined, offering elderflower mocktail. Crisis redirected, she quipped. Storm-watered roses, Cassandra replied. Her gaze found Bradford speaking to Tanisha. Sheepish smile forming. Hope germinates in odd soil. Any word on the Bell Youth grant approvals, she asked. All cleared, Lillian said. We launch pilot next month. Cassandra exhaled gratitude. Good, now let's set our sights on public libraries in Orangeburg County. Lillian nodded, already drafted. Meanwhile, center court dance floor. Charlotte twirled beneath chandeliers, gown rippling like moonlit water. Felicity grabbed her hand. Squealed, your grandmother just pledged $1 million to renovation. What planet am I on? Charlotte laughed. A better one. She scanned crowd for Preston and found him at a table with Councilwoman Ortiz and 2 kids from the clinic. Drawing app icons on napkins, pride swelled. Eleanor approached Charlotte. May we talk? Mother and granddaughter stepped aside. Eleanor's eyes glistened. I owe you a wedding present. Nana, your support is enough. Eleanor shook her head, producing a small velvet box. Inside her grandmother's Art Deco sapphire brooch. Family treasures should travel toward light. Tears spilled. Thank you for showing me light. Charlotte embraced her tightly. When 9:22 p.m., the toasts of crystal flutes refilled. Coach Hamilton banged his water glass. Time for toasts. Harold Vale went first, speaking of fatherly pride and lessons learned. His voice cracked when he thanked Preston for teaching us strength is listening. Iris delivered next toast to bridges built by unexpected architects. She announced a forthcoming initiative, Azure Palms Women's Council merging with the NAP for quarterly dialogues. Applause thundered. Finally, Cassandra rose, king glinting. She surveyed the sea of faces. Some she'd forgiven, some who'd forgiven themselves. Every love story begins before 2 people meet, she said. It begins with ancestors laying planks, strangers holding lanterns, even adversaries who sharpen our resolve. Tonight, we honor each soul, present or past, who nudged Preston and Charlotte to this altar and this new world we're building. She raised flute, to legacy rewritten in real time, and to the courage that writes it. Cheers reverberated, strings resumed, guests surrendered to dance. 9:40 p.m., moonlit revelation. On a quieter terrace, Preston found Cassandra staring at the waning moon. Gran, you still have surprises? He teased. She chuckled. Only one. She handed him a sealed envelope marked open in 1 year. Inside, forecasted impact metrics for tonight's decisions. Open on your first anniversary. See if we met the mark. He placed it in jacket pocket. Whatever the data say, hearts changed. That's immeasurable. Measure anyway, she said. Metrics keep passion honest. He kissed her cheek. Dance with me? I thought you'd never ask. They stepped onto the empty patio floor. The band's distant bass guided them. Her cane rested against a plantar arthritis protested, yet joy overruled. Under fairy lights, grandmother and grandson swayed, shadows merging with ancient oaks. Life granted me many titles, Cassandra whispered, but lantern holder might be my favorite. Preston tightened his embrace. You're more than lantern, you're the northern star. Oh, epilogue of the evening. Oh. Bradford, noticeably gentler after 2 seltzers, approached Councilwoman Ortiz to discuss playground resurfacing. Iris scribbled notes for inclusive membership criteria. Dorothea cornered the city architect about adaptive ramps for colonial homes. Pauline taught Tanisha the waltz. Midnight struck, fireworks burst above the river, Harklot's only extravagance request. Colors rained ruby, sapphire, gold, their reflection shimmered over water and upturned faces alike. Cassandra watched the sky flowers fade, felt her mother, her daughter, the ancestors humming through her bones. Storms redirected, bridges built, ledgers opened, and a gala meant to crown old money had instead christened a new social covenant. Cassandra exhaled, folded her hands, and thanked the night. Tomorrow, work would resume, libraries, scholarships, city ordinances. But tonight, the city danced on a court once guarded by velvet ropes, now echoing with inclusive laughter. And somewhere in the dark, Jasmine paddled the air, reminding everyone lucky enough to breathe that bloom follows rain when gardeners choose courage over control. On Monday morning, 3 days after the wedding, sunlight filtered through live oak branches like thin gold ribbons, striping Charleston's historic district in hopeful geometry. Cassandra uses Ford Fusion idled at the curb outside the Kiki lot. Enter an unassuming brick building she purchased years earlier under a shell company so small it barely made balance sheet footnotes. Today she was here not to acquire but to relinquish. Inside her bag sat 2 envelopes. One offered resignation, the other transferred voting control of the Hobbs Walker Foundation, $6. $4 billion in cassettes, from Cassandra to a newly created intergenerational board chaired by Preston and Charlotte. Power, she believed, was healthiest when it kept moving like river water rather than damming into private reservoirs. She killed the engine, listened to the cooling tick of metal, and exhaled. Change, no matter how righteous, always twanged a nerve. Then she smoothed her pearl gray suit, lifted her cane, and stepped into the humid air. The boardroom at 6 a.m. 12 foundation trustees gathered around an oval table of reclaimed cypress. Ages ranged from 27 to 73. Complexions formed a living color wheel. At the head sat Cassandra's playholder nameplate chair. She adjusted it to one side, signaling transition. Preston and Charlotte arrived together, he in a navy suit, she in a sunflower yellow sheath. Murmurs hushed. Cassandra opened the meeting with a gentle knock of wood on wood. Friends, she began, this is my final meeting as chairwoman. Gasps fluttered. She raised a calming palm. 40 years ago I founded this body to see justice quietly. Quiet no longer serves. New gardeners must speak with louder voice, digital, global, fearless. She handed envelope 1 to Secretary Louisa Chang. Effective immediately, I resign. Envelope 2, she slid it to Preston, appoints a rotating chairmanship, 3-year terms, maximum 2, beginning with the Husvale household. Her grandson's eyes widened. Charlotte whispered, but Nana. Cassandra smiled at the accidental honorific. Nana's planting new seeds elsewhere. Trustee Dr. Malik Okafor frowned. We depend on your relationships. World bankers answer when you call. Then I'll keep my phone, she laughed. But advisory, not command. Louisa reviewed the legal text, nodded. It's flawless and irrevocable. Preston cleared his throat, voice steady yet quivering with emotion. Gran. Are you sure? Power stagnates if it never changes hands, she answered. I won't let our mission moss over. A unanimous vote ratified the restructure. When the gavel struck, Cassandra felt something release inside, like loosening laces after a marathon. The same day, 10:15 a.m., Azure Palms Country Club board suite. Meanwhile, Eleanor Montgomery confronted her own relinquishment. The club's executive board, 8 white men in pastel polos. One nervously reformed since the gala, sat before her annotated proposal. She'd spent the weekend editing it with Felicity and Iris. Abolish Legacy membership pipeline. Institute scholarship tiers for underrepresented youth and military families. Require annual diversity audits. Eleanor's pearls felt heavier than usual, but her gaze stayed direct. Gentlemen, the board can cling to fading prestige or pioneer relevance. Vote. Chairman Rutledge Harrington cleared his throat. Mrs. Montgomery, many members fear dilution of standards. She met him square. Standards built on exclusion don't deserve survival. The sentence landed like a gavel. Votes tallied 5-4 in favor. Cheers burst from Iris and Pauline, who'd finagled proxies. Rutledge resigned on the spot. Eleanor exhaled, half in sadness, half in triumph. Progress exacts a toll. A Tuesday county courthouse. Bradford Lyle shuffled into courtroom tube for a zoning appeals hearing he'd filed before the wedding. To his surprise, he found not Cassandra but Councilwoman Ortiz flanked by 2 teen tennis players in dress clothes. Their testimony about safe recreation demolished Bradford's arguments. The judge dismissed his petition with prejudice, commending commendable civic partnership. Outside, reporters asked for comment. Bradford, fewer hairs, more humility, said, "I support the new direction. Kids belong on courts, not streets." The words tasted foreign but freeing. In Wednesday's bungalow porch swing, Cassandra and Eleanor sat side by side, lemonade sweating on the rail. They discovered conversations flowed easier without China between them. Eleanor traced condensation rings. When tradition has been your compass, forging new bearings feels like drifting. Cassandra rocked gently. "We're not lost, we're charting undiscovered latitude." Eleanor smiled. "I contacted the state university, endowed a chair in African American commerce. They suggested naming it after me, but I insisted on your daughter's name, Amelia House Kelly Chair." Cassandra's eyes brimmed. Amelia would have loved that. She squeezed Eleanor's hand. Transformation wasn't instant, it was incremental and emulative, a quilt sewn from many small bravery patches. In Friday Bellevue grand opening. Ribbon cutting day arrived. The refurbished south wing of Bellevue featured a glass-walled library, tech lab, and 4 convertible courts. Kids from 5 schools gathered, some gripping rackets, others brandishing library cards. Charlotte, clipboard in hand, orchestrated volunteers. Preston tested microphones. Check 1 2. His first address as foundation chair drew local news vans. Cassandra hovered near back, cane tucked beneath bench. She watched him lead with warmth, citing data, weaving anecdotes. She felt no urge to correct. Power had indeed changed hands, and it suited him. Councilwoman Ortiz presented a city proclamation. Tanisha read a poem about resilience that made even seasoned cameramen wipe eyes. Eleanor, in sunflower scarf to match Charlotte, announced a surprise $2 million expansion pledge. Applause thundered. When the ribbon finally fell, children flooded the space. Some dashed to shelves, others to baseline. Laughter ricocheted off rafters. Lillian slid beside Cassandra. "You did it." "We did it," Cassandra echoed. She surveyed the scene, a lattice of futures, each thread stronger for being interwoven. Later that evening, sunset on the pier. Preston found Cassandra leaning on the pier railing, gaze fixed on copper water. He handed her soft-serve ice cream, Vanzilla swirl, Heldwood ritual. He asked, "Scared?" "Terrified," she confessed, licking cone. "But fear reminds me I'm alive, not complacent." He nodded, bored already, debating vercoating labs and planting fruit orchards on vacant lots. "We're running," she finished. "Keep pace with purpose, not ego." They watched pelicans dive. Wind smelled of salt and possibility. In Saturday Kila Center again. 1 week post-wedding, Cassandra returned to sign final escrow papers transferring Bellevue Parcel 3 to the city for $1. Title clerk gaped. "Why so low?" She winked. "Profit wears many faces." Walking out, she bumped into Bradford. He carried a folder labeled Community Liaison Committee. Embarrassed, he said, "I volunteered." She tipped her cane. "Lantern looks good in your hand." He laughed, surprised by warmth. His Sunday service, St. Andrew's. Congregants noticed change as Charlotte taught Sunday shul crafts. Iris greeted worshippers of all colors. Colleen sang in gospel choir despite thick French accent. Cassandra sat with Eleanor. Hymnals open. The Reverend's sermon. Transformation isn't translation, it's trust. Kemmons rolled. Afterward, Cassandra shook hands until aisles cleared. Outside, Tanisha lugged a racket almost as tall as she was. "Ms. Hughes, I won my first junior match." Cassandra beamed. "I knew those serves were seeds." Tanisha added shyly, "I want to start a girls' Henley League. Could Bellevue help?" Cassandra crouched, arthritis protesting. "Draw the plan. Bring it to Preston. He'll fund it, and if he balks, tell him Nana said so." They giggled. The evening Cassandra's study. Alone, Cassandra opened a fresh journal, a gift from Charlotte mirroring the one she'd given months prior. On the first page she wrote, "Legacy, the art of letting go while holding the door open." She dated it, set pen down. Her phone beeped. Text from Lillian County approved library expansion. Another from Preston board voted yes on orchard project. Each notification felt like a baton passed farther along the relay. She brewed chamomile, sat by window where cicadas pulsed summer song. The moon, a thin cradle tonight, hung low like promise. She whispered gratitude for storms, drapes, pearls, and pitchforks, all the props in the drama that had ferried them here. Tomorrow she'd visit Orangeburg to scout library sites. But tonight, she simply rested, finally content in the sweetest surrender of her life, trusting the next generation to carry lanterns brighter than her own. Outside, an owl hooted, a century-marking shift change. Power had indeed changed hands, and with it the rhythm of an entire city's heartbeat. Cassandra closed her eyes, let that new rhythm cradle her, and drifted into peaceful sleep. 1 year later, Memorial Day weekend. A dawn breeze glided over Charleston Harbor, warm with honeysuckle and the faint tang of sea salt. The city breathed a different rhythm now, construction crews renovating libraries in Orangeburg County. Bellevue Racquet Club hosting its first interschule girls tournament, Azure Palms scheduling joint nap Rotary luncheons. People called it the Lantern Year, 12 months since a grandmother's hidden fortune toppled old hierarchies and lit paths for new ones. Inside a renovated carriage house on Rainbow Row, Preston used stirred pancake batter while Stevie Wonder played low on the smart speaker. Charlotte set the table, hand-thrown plates from a local black potter, linen napkins, embroidered love builds bridges. Today marked their first anniversary, and the agenda was simple: breakfast, boat ride, evening gala for scholarship donors. Yet an unopened envelope sat propped against the syrup bottle. The gold script on its front read "Open in 1 year." Preston poured batter, heart thumping. He remembered his grandmother handing him the envelope after the wedding. A sly smile promising revelation. Across 12 months he had resisted curiosity, sometimes sleeping with the letter under his pillow like a talisman, sometimes stuffing it in a drawer to avoid the pressure of expectations. Charlotte kissed his neck. "Ready to see how we did, Mr. Chair?" Terrified, he admitted. She sliced strawberries. Fear means it matters. She'd learned that from Cassandra, and from stepping into her own power. Since the wedding, Charlotte had become director of community engagement for the Hubs Walker Foundation, coordinating 72 volunteers and 10 cross-sector partnerships. Nana, she often said, planted lanterns inside her. Preston flipped pancakes, served, then carried the envelope to the patio. They settled beneath a pergola dripping with wisteria. Boats bobbed on the Cooper River. A gull laughed overhead. Hand trembling, Preston tore the seal. Inside a single sheet of thick paper titled Impact Forecast May 30, 21 year. Below, Cassandra's looping handwriting listed 9 goals. 1. 20 youth served through Bell Youth Programs. 2. County Library attendance 30. 3. Azure Palms Membership Diversity Index 25 improvement. 4. Montgomery Holdings debt ratio stabilized 30. 5. Foundation governance rotated without scandal. 6. 2 new minority-owned businesses fostered via Meyer loans. 7. Community college tuition fund established. 8. Former adversary lead civic board. 9. Family harmony eaten on Sunday dinner scale. At the bottom a postscript. If you score 7 of 9, treat yourselves to Paris. If 9 of 9, take Nana to see. Charlotte laughed. She would sneak a scoring rubric into marriage. Preston opened a second folded page. Data. Every metric documented by Lillian. 8 of 9 boxes bore green check marks. Library attendance up 42. Azure Palms diversity improved 28. Debt ratio now 24. Meyer loan program launched 2 catering startups. Community college fund serving 140 students. Ivy board chair, Bradford Lyle, now championing inclusive playgrounds. Only 1 box lacked a check. Family harmony measured 17. Felicity's survey noted occasional tension with Aunt Rosemary over social media posts. Charlotte squealed. 8 of 9 Paris. We bring Nana, Preston said, eyes shining. Obviously. They high-fived with syrupy fingers. You later that morning, Cassandra's bungalow. Cassandra hummed as she watered tomato plants. At 63, arthritis still complained. But joy lubricated joints. A bicycle bell rang. Tanisha, now 13 and ranking top 50 in the state, pedaled up the driveway, racket strapped to her backpack. Ms. Hughes, coach said Belmont University is scouting our tournament next month. Cassandra leaned on her cane like a queen's scepter. Then let them witness thunder in your serve. Tanisha grinned. Calso, we need funds for traveling uniforms. Board meetings next week. Put the proposal in writing, Cassandra said. I'll only sign it after you calculate cost per player and a sustainability model. Tanisha rolled eyes affectionately. You sound like Mr. Hughes. He sounds like me, Cassandra winked. As Tanisha cycled away, a black town car pulled to the curb. Out stepped Eleanor Montgomery, in khakis and a Belle Youth polo. She carried a Tupperware of lemon bars. For the volunteer potluck, she explained, handing it over. Sugar is diplomacy. Her laughter had lightened over the year, losing its brittle edge. Cassandra sampled a corner crumb, sweet and tangy, like progress. They sat on wicker chairs. Birds chirped. After a comfortable pause, Eleanor spoke. State University asked me to keynote commencement next spring. I plan to title it From Gatekeeper to Bridge Builder. Think it's too on the nose? On the heart, Cassandra corrected. Eleanor's eyes softened. Would you stand on stage when I speak? Cassandra touched her hand. Gladly. 2 lanterns shine brighter. The noon Charleston Civic Hall. The hall buzzed as the inaugural Bridge Builders Summit, brainchild of Iris Wetton, kicked off. Banners read policy, empathy, progress, seats filled with business leaders, artists, clergy, activists. Iris, clad in crimson pantsuit, approached Cassandra backstage. 500 attendees. She whispered, shaking with nerves. A year ago I feared inviting difference. Cassandra adjusted Iris' lapel pin. Fear learned to dance. Keynote commenced. Councilwoman Ortiz highlighted zoning reforms ensuring green spaces within every new development. Bradford introduced a pilot inclusive play arena named Unity Park. Audience gasp of approval. When Cassandra took the podium for closing remarks, silence rippled like silk. I stand here proof that mercy outmuscles spite, that legacy is a relay not a finish line, and that new beginnings arrive the moment we choose humility over habit. She outlined 3 tenets. 1. Power must circulate. 2. Mercy multiplies ROI beyond spreadsheets. 3. Stories when shared receive the soil of culture. She ended, pass your lantern before the flame dims. Ovation thundered. Some cried, some texted, donors all rose renewed. The evening waterfront gala for scholarship funded. String lights reflected off the harbor like constellations born twice, a year ago. Gala tension thickened air tonight, laughter floated, and a cappella group from South Carolina State sang Stand By Me, mixing bass lines with sweet soprano harmony. Charlotte, clipboard in hand, tallied pledges. They had aimed for $500. 0 the total hit $900, 0 before dessert. Preston linked a glass. Friends, 1 year ago tonight, Nana challenged us to measure heart change. We achieved 8 of 9 goals. On Rosemary, he added, playful. If you delete 3 problematic Facebook posts, we'll hit 9. Audience laughed. Rosemary bowed dramatically. Sensing the perfect moment, Preston waved Cassandra to the stage. She ascended slowly. Applause guided every step. To celebrate, Preston announced, the foundation will match tonight's donations and expand to rural counties. And one more surprise, Nana, Charlotte, and I leave for Paris next month for a global philanthropy conference, where Nana will receive the Luminary Award. Gasps, cheers, camera flashes. Cassandra raised palms. Awards honor yesterday's work, tomorrow demands fresh sweat. But I accept, on one condition: Tanisha and 2 students join. Let them see the world their talents deserve. The cheers redoubled. Be midnight quiet Dake. Stars painted the sky, cicadas laid down their tempo. Cassandra and Preston leaned against a piling. Gran, he said softly, you sure you're done steering? She tilted her head. Steering, no. Rowing, maybe. My arms tire. But my eyes still chart currents. He nodded, understanding. Thank you for the lantern and the map. She smiled. Maps redraw. Just promise me when you see lightning. Remember, storms can water gardens. He chuckled, always. They gazed at water until silence felt like him. De Cassandra's journal entry con 7 a.m. Tonight I watched a room of former rivals sing the same song. Bradford harmonized. Iris danced. Eleanor wept quietly, not from regret but reverence. Mercy is the seed. Legacy is the bloom. New beginnings, they're the fruit we never taste alone. I surrender the pen gladly to hands I once guided. May they write chapters kinder than mine. The final morning scene, Cassandra's porch, sunrises. Pink light inched across rooftops. Lillian arrived with coffee, 2 tickets to Orangeburg Library reopening. Ready for another ribbon, she asked. Cassandra yawned. Let the new board cut this one. I prefer attending as neighbor. They sat quietly sipping brew, watching the street wake. Children bite. A white couple jogging waved. Neighbor Mr. Jefferson, who once questioned property values, offered muffins. Lillian broke silence. What's next? Cassandra's eyes twinkled. I'm writing a children's book. Lantern Annie Saves the Town. Simple story about a girl who plants light. I'd buy that. Lillian grinned. Cassandra patted her aunt's, soon to be replaced by a custom one Tanisha carved in woodworking class. She inhaled, tasting jasmine promise. A car honked. Preston and Charlotte arrived, luggage and passports in trunk. Tanisha stuck her head out back seat window, squealing bonjour Ms. Hughes. Cassandra rose, joints complaining melodically. Time to see if Paris is ready for lanterns. As she locked her door, she whispered to the memory of her mother, her daughter, all the ancestors, we kept the flame alive. Then she climbed into the driver, Bradford, volunteering for airport duty, and laughed as the neighborhood watched a caravan of reconciliation roll down Azalea Street. The sun climbed, silk-coating the car like a bright future on wheels. Jasmine, magnolia, and saltwater wove scents into a farewell braid, and with that, Cassandra Hughes, one underestimated, ultimately uncompromising, embarked on her next beginning, leaving Charleston aglow with countless lanterns held by newly empowered hands. End.